Senator, Trump has cautioned the meeting with Putin he said it could go poorly. He put the odds of failure at 25%. What's your reaction to that statement?
Well, I think the president is being realistic, and John just mentioned how he has these discussions with Putin that seem to go well, and then the next thing you know, he's bombing a hospital or a nursing home, and so you see a higher level of frustration with President Trump dealing with Vladimir Putin. I think, Rebecca, it's important to remember that Putin's here on our soil, which I think is fine, because of the threat of sanctions. You know, you see what the European leaders that we're coordinating with this week, they're saying that he's starting these negotiations because the president and the Congress have threatened massive secondary sanctions on him. And I also think it's great that, and quite historic, that it's in Alaska, because there's something really important when you're dealing with the dictator like Putin. He understands strength, he understands power. And our state exudes American strength and power. We have a huge and growing military presence. We have an incredible energy capacity that we're unleashing with President Trump and his administration's help. And another important element of our power is our allies. The president's been coordinating, as John mentioned, quite well with our allies this week, but we're coordinating with our allies right now in Alaska. We have Arctic Edge going on, we have Northern Edge going on. These are really big military exercises. So I hope Vladimir Putin gets to see some of the power of Alaska, and I think keeping it focused on American power is how you make progress with Putin.
Senator, do you believe that Putin can be trusted? And do you think the reason why he's come to the negotiating table right here in Anchorage, Alaska, is because of that threat of the president pulling the trigger on those secondary tariffs, which could really damage Russia's economy?
Yeah, John, I think that's exactly why he agreed to being here. And again, look at what the European leaders, NATO leaders have said this past week. They agree with that assessment. So again, I don't trust Putin at all. And I think you see there's a lot of reasons. You remember in 2022, he said he wasn't going to invade Ukraine. But there's a lot of reasons that, as Ronald Reagan said, it's trust but verify and peace through strength. And again, I think the key to all of this is not to believe the rhetoric, is to show American strength and American power, whether that's through sanctions, whether that's through our military, whether that's through our unleashing American energy, especially up here in Alaska. Those are the kind of weapons that bring Putin to the table, not lofty rhetoric. And I think the president understands that, and I think that's why Putin's here.
And Senator, people and critics in particular are saying that Putin being in Alaska on American soil is itself a victory for Russia. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't agree with that, Rebecca. Like I said, he's here because he was threatened, and he's on our soil. We didn't come to him. And again, Alaska is a really appropriate place, not just because the power that we show on energy, on our military, on missile defense. We just home ported an icebreaker, which finally we needed down in Juneau. But here's something else. I think Alaska reminds the Russians that Americans, including this president, are really good negotiators. The last time there was a big negotiation about Alaska between the Russians and the United States, we did quite well. 2 cents an acre, $7.2 million for this great state. We know what we're doing, and I think it's a reminder to the Russians, especially being in Alaska, that we know how to negotiate hard to protect our interests and those of our allies.
Senator Sullivan and John Decker, thank you both so much for your time and your insights tonight. Of course, we have a lot more coming up tomorrow as this whole event unfolds. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.